Second Pet's Diary by Yulia Puchkova. Chapter 1. A Car. Hi, my name is Nick. We are a family of 4. Mom, Dad, my sister Pat, and me. I am 13 years old, and my parents have got a lot of problems with me. But when I was younger, they had even more problems. The first problem appeared when I went to the kindergarten. I was 3 years old then. On my first day there, I met a boy. His name was Bob. Bob liked toy cars. There were some small toy cars in the kindergarten, but Bob always brought his cars from home. They were bigger and more beautiful. You must know that he never played with his cars. He didn't ride them on the floor like other boys. He liked hitting other children with them. Usually he hit us on the heads. I don't know why, but he liked my head most of all. At that time I was very quiet. I couldn't fight or hit people, but I liked my head too. So, when he hit me, I usually started crying like a girl. One day Dad saw a big bump on my forehead and asked, "How did you get this?" I told him about Bob. Suddenly, Dad's kind eyes became serious and he said, "You mustn't cry. You must fight back." "But I can't hit people," I said and started crying again. "You are a man. You must learn how to fight," Dad cried. The next day, I went to the kindergarten again. When I came into our playroom, Bob ran up to me and hit me again with his car. I looked around. All the toy cars in the room were smaller than his, and I needed a bigger one. I looked and saw Annie. She was the cutest girl in our group. Annie was in the big car. You know, we all loved that car. You could drive it. There was usually a big queue next to that car because everyone wanted to drive around the playroom. But it was too early and Annie was alone. Now I know what to do. I went up to Annie and said, "Please, Annie, please. I want to be a man. And a real man needs a big car. Give the car to me." I don't know why, but Annie started crying and got out of the car. But I didn't get in the car. I lifted it. It was very difficult because the car was very heavy. But I lifted it, went up to Bob and said, "I am a man. I'm here to fight you back." When Bob saw me, he dropped his toy car and started running around the room and calling his mommy. I looked around, but there was no Bob's mommy. So I asked him, "Why are you calling your mom? Look, she isn't here." But Bob didn't answer and ran even faster. So I went after him with my big car high in the air. Suddenly Bob stopped running. He sat down on the floor and started crying. I was surprised and put the car down. You know, I didn't hit him then, but from that day on, he never hit anybody. Of course, I gave the car back to Annie. She smiled at me, and I felt like a real man. Chapter 2. A live alarm clock. Another problem appeared when I became 6 and went to school. My parents couldn't wake me up in the morning. Every morning, Mom came into my room and said, "It's time to get up, Nikki." And she repeated it again and again. but I didn't hear. So she called Dad. When Dad came into my room, he shouted, "You get up, Nikki, or I will do something terrible." He repeated it several times, but it didn't work. You must know one thing. My dad is the kindest dad in the world. He can never do anything terrible. So I wasn't afraid at all and continued sleeping. My parents didn't know what to do, so they bought me a special alarm clock. When it was 7 in the morning, this alarm clock started doing one naughty thing after another. First, it rang very loudly. Then, it started barking like a real big dog. If I didn't get up and turn it off, it started singing. Mom is eating pancakes. Pat is eating cornflakes. Dad is drinking iced tea. Now the fridge is empty. To tell you the truth, I love pancakes, cornflakes, and iced tea. As soon as I heard this song, I jumped up and ran to the kitchen. But they were always pancakes, cornflakes, and iced tea for me. So, a week later, that song stopped waking me up. My parents were terribly angry. They thought and thought, and a month later, they bought me and Pat a small puppy. At first, I didn't understand why, and was very happy, but soon everything became clear. Every morning when my alarm clock started ringing, my puppy ran into the room. He didn't bark. Instead, he took the edge of my blanket with his teeth, pulled it off me, and ran away to the kitchen with it. I was in bed in my pants and a t-shirt. Soon I started freezing. Can you sleep when you are freezing? I can't. So I jumped out of the bed and ran after my blanket. I always found it in the kitchen, but there were hot pancakes, cornflakes with milk, and iced tea on the table. That was the end of the problem. You know, I called our puppy Rascal. That was the right name for such a naughty dog. Chapter 3. Rascal's Hobby. Rascal was a naughty but funny puppy. When he became a year old, he took up a hobby. He started collecting our slippers. Every evening we left them on the floor next to the beds. Every morning we found them around Rascal, under Rascal, and of course in Rascal's mouth. We started closing the doors of our rooms at nights, but it didn't help. Now we could find the slippers in the morning, but every afternoon when we came home, Rascal had all of them on his rug. Then Mom said to us, "When you leave the house, put your slippers in the drawer." We did it, but it didn't help either. Rascal hunted our slippers. When one of us took off their slippers to climb a chair or walk on the carpet, Rascal was already there. He stole the slippers and ran to his rug. It was a real battle for slippers, and we always lost. Mom was in horror. You see, when our slippers came out of Rascal's mouth, they usually had big holes in them. So poor Mom bought us new slippers, and soon Rascal had a really big collection. Dad went to a pet shop and bought some toys for dogs. They were rubber bones and rattles that looked like fish. But Rascal didn't want to play with his toys. He loved slippers. He slept with slippers, he ate slippers, and he played with slippers. "You are a rascal," Mom often said to him. He agreed and made holes in a new slipper. One evening, we decided to think what to do. We sat down around the table in the kitchen, and Mom said, "It's terrible. I buy 4 new pairs of slippers every month, and they aren't cheap." "Let's find a cat for him," said Dad. "Then he'll forget about slippers and hunt the cat." "What are you saying, Ben?" cried Mom. "It's your horror films. You are getting so cruel." "Mommy," said Pat, "let's buy Rascal his own slippers. I think he's angry because we all have got ones and he hasn't." "Great," cried Mom. "Don't you think that he has already got too many?" And she pointed to Rascal, who was asleep on a heap of slippers. "What about buying another puppy? I think it's boring to stay alone in the house half the day," said I. "Then Rascal will always have a friend to play with." Mom and Dad looked at me in surprise, but Pat jumped up and clapped her hands. "Nikki, you are great! It's a brilliant idea." Now Mom and Dad looked at each other. "It's an idea," said Mom, "but aren't 2 dogs too many?" "One for Nick and one for me," smiled Pat. "Both for me," sighed Dad. "I will take them for a walk, but it's okay with me." "Hooray!" cried Pat and I. Now we looked at Mom. "Okay," she said at last. "I hope our new dog won't become a slipper collector too, and they won't fight with Rascal for slippers." That was how Rescuer appeared in our house. You know, I was right. As soon as Rascal saw Rescuer, he forgot about slippers forever. Chapter 4. Pat and Milk. Hi, my name is Pat. It is short for Patsy. I'm Nick's sister. I'm 10 years old. Of course, I have problems too. The first one appeared very long ago. I know this story from Mom. I was small then, about 4, and I didn't like milk. Poor Mom didn't know what to do. She told me that milk is very healthy. She sat down next to me and drank it together with me, but nothing helped. All that I could drink was 1/4 of a cup. One day, Aunt Polly came to visit us. I sat down in her lap and started talking to her. After some time, Aunt Polly said to Mom, "Jill, I hope you've got milk." "Of course we have," answered Mom. "How much?" asked Aunt. 2 cartons, answered Mom. "Only 2 cartons?" cried Aunt Polly. I looked at her in surprise. For me, even a cup of milk was too much. So Mom took a carton out of the fridge and put it on the table. My aunt opened it and poured herself a full cup. Then she started drinking. When she finished, she cried, "Oh, what tasty milk you have got, Jill!" Then she poured herself another cup. This time she drank it slowly. From time to time she stopped and said something like, "Yum yum," or "It's wonderful," or "I love milk." I couldn't believe my eyes. Aunt Polly drank 1 cup after another and stopped only when the carton was empty. "I'm not full," said Aunt. "Give me the other carton." She looked at me and added, "I hope Pat doesn't like milk." I felt that something was wrong. Aunt Polly wanted to drink all our milk. She even wanted to drink my 1/4 of a cup. I wasn't a greedy girl, but, at that moment I felt really greedy. I looked at my aunt with angry eyes and shouted, "Yes, I love milk. I drink half a carton every day." "No, it can't be," said Aunt. "And even if it's true, I'm your guest. I'm sure you will share your milk with me." "No," I cried angrily. "I won't. You already have a whole carton of milk in your stomach. If you drink another cup, you will burst, and I won't have an aunt." "You are wrong," she said angrily. "I know that my stomach is only half full." And with these words, she took the other carton. I caught her hand and cried, "No! If you want to burst, go home and do it there. I don't want Mom to clean the kitchen for the rest of the day." "But I love milk," cried Aunt Polly. "I love it too," I lied. "Do you?" She looked surprised. "Then prove it." So I asked Mom to pour me a full cup. I drank it very slowly. From time to time I stopped and said, Yum yum," or "It's wonderful," or "I love milk." And a strange thing happened. Suddenly I felt that I really liked its taste. So when I finished, I put out my cup and said to Mom, "I would like another cup." And this time I didn't lie. Now I know that it was a trick. Mom and Aunt Polly planned it together. But I'm not angry because now I love milk. Chapter 5. Nick's Love Story. This happened when I was 9 years old. There is a girl in my class. She's called Helen. She's very pretty. You know, slim with dark hair and blue-green eyes. 4 years ago I fell in love with her. But it was half of the problem. The other half was Peter, because he also fell in love with Helen. Every day after school, we went after her to the bus stop, got on the bus, and traveled to her house. There, we got off and walked after her to her door. After that, we fought with Peter, and then went home together. It continued all the autumn and all the winter. But one day, our teacher, Miss Eleanor May Lee, we called her email, saw us on the bus. We didn't see her. She got off with us and went after us to Helen's house. When we started fighting, she ran up to us and shouted, "Stop fighting, or I'll tell your parents." Of course we didn't stop, and she kept her promise. She phoned our parents. That evening I had a serious talk with Dad. "Now I know why you come home with a black eye or a bump every day," he said. I didn't say a word. "So, you lied to us. You didn't fall in the street, and nobody dropped oranges on your head from the balcony." I was silent. So Dad looked into my eyes and asked, "Do you really love her?" I looked down and nodded silently. "And does Pete?" I nodded again. "But why don't you ask Helen which of you she loves?" Then I looked at Dad and said, "Helen isn't a good pupil. She usually gets bad marks." "Does it matter to you?" asked Dad in surprise. "Of course not, but we aren't sure that she will give us the right answer. At the lesson she never does." I didn't understand why, but Dad started laughing very loudly. I don't remember how we fell out of love, but after we did, Peter and I became best friends, and we always went home together. Chapter 6. Defending Pat. When I was in the kindergarten, there was a girl in our group. Her name was Lucy. I don't know why, but she didn't like me. Every day she came up to me and said something bad. She teased me from morning till evening. She knew a lot of rhymes. Usually it was something like this: "You are fat, silly Pat," or "When Pat is crying, all flies are dying," or "Pat blows her nose right into her clothes." You must know that I wasn't fat, and I never cried because of Lucy. Also, I always had a handkerchief with me. I was a slim and neat girl. The problem was that I didn't know any rhymes like hers, so I didn't answer her. I always walked away and continued playing with some toys. But that made things only worse. She usually got angrier, went after me, and teased me again and again. It was terrible. I didn't cry, but I felt very bad. Then I told everything to Mom. When Mom heard about my problem, she asked, "Why didn't you tell me about it long ago?" "But how could you help me?" I asked. "I could go to the kindergarten and talk to Lucy." "No," I said. "Don't do that. You are big and Lucy is small. It is unfair." Mom looked at me. There was a kind smile in her eyes. "You are a good girl," she said. Then Mom thought a moment and suddenly cried, "I know how I will help you." With these words, she took a piece of paper and started writing something. "What are you writing?" I asked. "Be quiet, please," said Mom, and continued writing. So I took my dolls and went to my bedroom. There I started playing and soon forgot about Lucy. 15 minutes passed and Mom ran into my room with her piece of paper. She lifted it to her eyes and read, "Lucy's tongue is so long. When she goes, it touches her toes. Lucy's big mouth is the size of a house. When Lucy talks, it's like the bark of dogs." "Mom," I said, "do you think I can say this to Lucy?" "You must," Mom cried. "It's wrong to tease people, but it's right to defend yourself." So I learned those rhymes by heart. The next day, Lucy came up to me and said something bad again. When I answered her with one of Mom's rhymes, she opened her mouth and her eyes became bigger than plums. Later, she tried again and got another rhyme. After that, she never came up to me again. That was the end of my problem. Thank you, Mommy. Chapter 7. Nick and Maths. I am bad at maths. It is a real problem. I found it out when I was in my 3rd year at school. Of course I know that 2 and 2 is 4 and 3 by 3 is 9, but I often forget it. I don't know why my parents think that it is strange. For example, all students know that they must do their homework and bring their notebooks to school, but many of them forget to do it. Nobody thinks that it is strange. It is just normal. When my parents understood that I had this problem, Dad decided to help me. He sat next to me and started telling me what to do. So we did a sum. Then he told me to do another sum without his help. I did it, but the answer was wrong. Dad pointed to my mistake and asked me to do a new sum. But I made a mistake again. Then a terrible thing happened. Dad, the kindest man in the world, became white, then red, and finally he shouted, "What's the matter with you? Don't you know that 2 and 2 is 4? I looked at him in surprise and said, "I even know that 7 and 7 is 14. Why then do you make silly mistakes? I don't know, I answered. I think I forget it when I do sums. Look at him, he forgets it, Dad shouted angrily. When I was your age, I didn't forget anything. When I was your age, I did sums much better than you. When I was your age, I looked in the book and thought about maths. When I was your age, And he continued and continued telling me about wonderful things that he could do when he was my age. You know, I'm quite a kind boy, but this was too much. I didn't make mistakes for fun. It was my problem, even my tragedy. And Dad, the kindest man in the world, looked like a boiling kettle and said things that hurt me. I couldn't answer back because I couldn't say, when I was your age, So I thought a little and then said angrily, when I'm your age, I won't be bald. Suddenly, Dad stopped his speech, opened his mouth, and looked at me in surprise. Why are you so sure? He asked after a moment. It's because I've got Mom's wavy black hair and not yours. Here Dad became sad and silent. He stood up and left the room. Soon Mom came into my room. I looked at her thick hair and said, It's unfair. You want to tell me about the times when you were my age, and I have nothing to say because you've got long thick hair. Mom thought that I had a temperature and touched my forehead. But I was okay, and we started doing sums together. And you know, Mom didn't shout at me. She only said that when she was my age, she was bad at maths too. Chapter 8. Pet's First Book. When I was very small, my parents read books to me in the evening. Nick could already read, so he read to himself. Then Mom started teaching me to read. When I became 6, I could read too, but I didn't want to read books myself. I liked listening to my parents. One day Mom said to me, Pat, it's time to start reading yourself. Look, I've got a beautiful book of funny stories for you. She gave me the book. It was very colorful, so I started looking at the pictures. Later Mom came up to me and asked, Do you like the book? I looked at Mom and answered, I like the pictures, and added, Please read it to me. I like how you change your voice. Your princesses have beautiful voices. Your princes have brave voices. And your witches have scary voices. I can't change my voice like you. Okay, Mom agreed. But it's the last time. So Mom read me the first 3 pages, and it was very interesting. I asked her to go on, but she said she was very busy. The next day I asked Mom to continue reading, but she said, No, dear, you must read yourself. Why can't you read to me? I cried. Is it so difficult? If it's easy, why can't you read yourself? Asked Mom. I told you why, I answered angrily. But if you have no time for me, I'll ask Dad. So I went to Dad, and he agreed to read to me. Dad never changed his voice, so his stories sounded more boring than Mom's. But I didn't want to read myself, so I was happy with Dad's voice. He stopped at the 6th page. Later that night, Mom talked to Dad. They talked a long time. I couldn't hear the words, but I could hear their voices. The next evening, I ran to Dad and asked him to read the story up to the end. But as soon as he opened his mouth and said a word, I looked at him in horror. "I'm sorry," barked Dad in a strange voice, "but I've got a sore throat. I can't read today." Then I tried to ask Mom, but she started coughing. It was strange. Both my parents were ill, and Nick couldn't read to me because he had a lot of homework. So I went to bed without reading. The next day my parents were still ill. 3 days passed. I was very angry and upset. Nobody read to me, and the story was so interesting. So, on the 5th day, I took the book, sat down on the sofa, and opened it. I looked at the picture on the 6th page. There were 3 dirty boys and a white dog. I looked at the text. It looked so big. There were a lot of words, and some of them were very long. "Oh no!" I cried and put the book on the table. Suddenly, Nicky came into the room. He took my book, opened it, found the picture of the 3 boys, whistled, and started reading to himself. When he finished, he started laughing. He even fell down on the sofa and continued laughing. "Nicky," I cried, "what happens in the end?" "I'm sorry, sister, but I must do my homework. And then I'm going to the sports club. Read yourself." To tell you the truth, I was terribly angry. I lay down on the sofa and started crying. I wanted to know the story, and nobody wanted to help me. I could hear Mom's coughing and Dad's barking in the next room. "Great!" I shouted. "Nobody in this hospital can read to me, and I want to know the story up to the end, and I will know." With bright eyes, I opened the book at page 6 and started reading. Now I don't remember the ending of that story, but I remember the ending of the story about a lazy girl who didn't want to read. The girl loved the story and read all the other stories in the book. Then she went to her poor parents and told them the stories. And magic happened. Suddenly, Mom stopped coughing, and Dad found his voice. Chapter 9. A surprise for Nick. This happened last summer. Our science teacher told us to find a bird's nest in the forest or garden. He asked us to watch the bird's eggs. He wanted us to see how chicks appeared out of eggs and how their parents fed them. Also, he told us to write down what we saw. In June, we went to Granny, who lives in the country. As soon as I came, I started looking for a nest. I couldn't find one, and I was sad. Gran and I went to the forest, but we didn't find any nests there either. It was a real problem. Then I had a brilliant idea. I decided to make a nest myself. I took a lot of thin twigs, dry grass, and started working. It was a hard job, but 3 days later I had a wonderful big nest. Of course, I didn't have any feathers or fluff, but Granny gave me a pillow, and I cut it and took out the feathers. Then I put them inside the nest. Now it was soft and cozy. It was ready for birds. The next day, I chose a tall tree, took a ladder, and started climbing with the nest in my right hand. Then I found a thick branch with a lot of thin twigs. I put my nest there and climbed down. I was very happy and proud. That night, I went to bed very early. I wanted to get up early and look at my nest. The next morning, As soon as I got up, I ran to the tree, but there were no birds. I was very sad, but Granny said, "Don't be upset. Birds don't know about your nest yet. They will come soon. You must wait." I waited 3 days. On the fourth morning, I ran out and saw that there was something gray in the nest. I was so happy. Now my nest was a real home for some gray birds. I wanted to watch them, so I took my binoculars to see them better. When I looked through the binoculars, I cried in horror. Pat was next to me. She took my binoculars, looked through them, and started laughing. But for me it wasn't funny at all. There, in my wonderful nest, were no birds. There was our neighbor's fat cat. It just fitted in the nest and was fast asleep. That was the end of my nest building activities. I didn't want to get a bad mark for the science task, so I took a photo with the cat in it. In September, I brought the photo to school. When my science teacher saw the photo, he started laughing and almost fell off the chair. When he stopped, I said, "Don't give me a bad mark, please. I wanted birds to live there, not him." "I believe you," smiled the teacher. "Let's send this photo to an animal magazine." I agreed, and 2 months later, I got the first prize in a magazine contest that was called Naughty Animals. Chapter 10. Pat as an actress. Last year, I wanted to be an actress. It was my dream. I'm very good at copying other people's voices and manners. But when I told my parents about my dream, they didn't want to hear that. Dad said, "All girls of your age wish to be actresses." And Mom added, "To become a good actress, you must have a talent. Nobody needs bad actresses, because there are already lots of them." Then I cried, "But I have a talent. I'm very talented. All my classmates think so." But my parents didn't want to listen. I was very angry and upset. But then I had a brilliant idea. Later in the day, Mom asked me to buy some bread. I did the shopping and on my way back went to my friend Sam, short for Samantha. There I put on a black wig, big dark sunglasses, and changed my clothes. Also, I put on a skirt. The skirt was the most important thing because I never wear skirts. Sam also glued long plastic nails over mine. Then Sam and I went to my parents. Sam rang the doorbell and Mom opened the door. "Hi, Mrs. Parks," said Sam. "Hello, Sam," said Mom. "Hi," I said. "This is our new classmate, Beth," said Sam and pointed to me. "Hi, nice to meet you," said Mom. "You know, Beth is very famous. That's why she's wearing sunglasses," explained Beth. "Wow," Mom looked surprised. "Come in, girls. Beth must be back soon. While we are waiting for her, let's have some tea." So we went to the kitchen. Sam started helping Mom to lay the table, and I sat down on a chair. "Well, Beth, where are you from?" asked Mom. "I can't tell you. It's secret information," I said. "But why are you at a new school in the middle of the school year?" "I'm having a photo session here," I explained and put my legs on the chair next to me. Mom's eyes became very big, but she didn't say anything. "I always put my legs on a chair because nobody can see them under the table, and they are so beautiful. It's silly to hide them, I smiled. And don't ask me to help you lay the table. With these words, I put my left hand on my left knee, and Mom could see my fingers with long green nails. "Oh, God!" cried Mom. "Have you got green nails on your toes, too?" "Of course," I said and kicked off the shoes. "And my teeth are perfect," I added with a sweet smile, "because they are false." "False teeth at your age?" cried Mom and covered her mouth in horror. "I mustn't do that," I said. "But you're so nice. Would you like to see my eyes?" "No, no!" shouted Mom, jumped up and knocked down the chair. Then she smiled at me and said, "I hope your eyes are your eyes." I didn't say anything. I simply took off my sunglasses. At first, Mom's eyes became angry, but it was only a moment. Mom looked at me a long time. Then she came up to me, took off my wig, and started laughing. Sam and I laughed too. Suddenly, Mom stopped laughing and said seriously, "You never ever talk to me about actresses. I don't want to have Beth instead of Pat." You know, at first I wanted to cry, but then I thought about Mom's words and decided that I didn't want to become Beth either. And that was the end of my problem. Chapter 11. A Cure for Pat. All my life I was afraid of spiders. When I saw one, I always screamed and ran away. But last summer everything changed. It was my birthday. Dad and Nikki gave me a microscope, and Mom gave me some beautiful clothes. Of course, I took the microscope and started looking at everything through it. I looked at seeds, hairs, even at dust. It was very interesting. In the evening, Mom asked me to try on my new clothes. She wanted to see how I looked in them. "I bought them because I liked these small pink flowers," said Mom. I looked at the clothes. There were trousers, shorts, and a t-shirt. Also, there was a handbag. They all were dark gray with small pink flowers. I put on the trousers and the t-shirt. I came up to the mirror and looked in. I smiled because I looked great. But then I saw something. I looked in the mirror again and screamed in horror. Those pink flowers weren't flowers at all. They were small spiders. Spiders were all over my clothes. Mom heard me and ran into the room. "What's the matter, dear?" she asked. "Mom, look!" I cried. "They are spiders." "Spiders?" said Mom in surprise. "Yes, these are not flowers, they are spiders." I pointed to the small pink things on my t-shirt. "Oh, no!" cried Mom. She looked very upset. "Okay," Mom sighed. "Take them off, and I will take them back to the shop." I looked in the mirror again. I looked so cute in my spider t-shirt and trousers. I didn't want Mom to take them back to the shop. "Mom, you know they are spiders, but they aren't real. They can't bite me, and they are small and nice." "What do you want to say?" Mom asked. I like them," I said and smiled. "I'll wear my spider clothes." And I did. And then a strange thing happened. When I saw a spider in the garden, I smiled at it because it was even smaller than my spiders. I wasn't afraid of spiders anymore. I even went to a horror film about spiders in my spider clothes. When the film ended and the light appeared, A woman next to me saw my spider t-shirt. She jumped up, screamed, "They're coming!" and ran out of the cinema. I ran after her. I felt sorry for her and wanted to help, but she started running faster. So I cried, "Buy clothes with spiders and put them on!" The woman heard my words, but she didn't thank me for my advice. She screamed like an ambulance and disappeared behind the houses. Poor woman! Why didn't she want to listen to me? Chapter 12. Patsy or Patrick. Now you know that I had problems when I was very small, and I still have got some problems. But there is the biggest problem. All my friends are boys, and I would like to be a boy too. Boys can climb trees and fences. They can make faces and say bad words, and nobody scolds them for that. But if I start climbing trees or making faces, Mom always says, "Pat, you are a girl. You mustn't behave like that. You must be quiet and polite." But I don't want to be quiet. I want to be noisy. Yesterday we talked with Mom about it. "Pat, there are holes in your trousers," Mom said angrily. "I know," I said. "Why have they got holes?" asked Mom. "Because I climbed trees with boys," I answered. "But you're a girl. Girls mustn't climb trees," Mom said. "But I did. And I climbed fences too." "Oh no!" cried Mom in horror. And I made faces at Jane. "No, Pat!" Mom's eyes became big like plates. This time I got really angry. "Why can't girls do what boys can?" I cried. Said Mom. "I think because girls have got other games to play. You can play with dolls, you can hopscotch or skip." "First, these games are boring," I said. "Second, it's unfair. It's not my fault that I'm a girl. If I mustn't climb trees, I don't want to be a girl anymore. Call me Patrick, buy me baggy trousers, a boy's shirt, and a baseball cap, and I'll be a boy." Said Mom again, and she became very quiet. I put my hands in the pockets, made an ugly face, and started whistling. "Pat, what are you doing?" cried Mom in horror. "I'm rehearsing," I answered. "But," Mom started, "if I let you climb trees and fences, will you promise not to put your hands in the pockets or whistle?" "Okay," I agreed. "Then, can I come home in dirty trousers with holes?" "Sometimes," sighed Mom. "And can I make faces at Jane?" I asked. "Only at Jane," agreed Mom. "And you won't scold me?" "I promise I won't," Mom sighed again. "Yes!" I cried and took my hands out of the pockets. "Then I stay a girl. Thank you, Mom." This was how my biggest problem disappeared. We know that we will have new problems. Some of them will be serious, and some will not. But we also know that if we can't solve them ourselves, there are parents or grandparents, aunts or uncles, teachers, or other grown-ups who will always help us to find a way out. Best wishes, Nick and Pat.